This past weekend, I got to fly out to Paris and shoot a short documentary for one of my favorite professional athletes of all time. This video is sponsored by Artless. So long story short, I ran track my whole life. I ran track in college. I met my wife on my college track team. We're both obsessed with track and we still follow it pretty obsessively to this day. There's one track and field athlete who I believe represents the sport the best in today's modern era, and that's Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone. She's an Olympic gold medalist, world record holder in the 400-meter hurdles. So I'm working, I check my phone real quick to procrastinate. See, I get a new DM request on Instagram, and who is it from? Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone. Yeah, I guess her husband, Andre, who's an awesome dude, he had seen some of my videos that I'd posted on YouTube and showed my videos to Sydney, and they thought I'd be a good person to reach out to for what they wanted. And I've worked with a bunch of superstar athletes in the past: Kevin Durant, Rory McIlroy, Odell Beckham Jr., but I would say I was most fired up for working with Sydney. So basically what they wanted was me to fly out to film Sydney's first meet of the season in Paris. It's her first time competing since she obliterated the world record last year at the World Championship, and she was trying out a new event, the Open 400, and they wanted me to capture the day before and the day of the race. I ended up going out shooting that, had an incredible experience. Sydney and her team welcomed me with open arms and were such a pleasure to work with. And I just wanted to take that experience to talk to you all about my approach to working with professional athletes and making these short docs, as I know a lot of you are interested in that sort of thing. So yeah, let's talk about it. The first one that I want to start out with is probably the most important when working with a professional athlete is you have to respect that athlete and what they're doing. Your film, what you're creating, is not as important as what that athlete is trying to achieve in that moment. I know the rule to documentary filmmaking is that you want to work with a subject where you're going to have pretty much like unlimited access and be able to capture whatever it is you're capturing. But that being said, I had never worked with Sydney before. She barely knows me. This was her first time coming back to race after shattering a world record, and it's her first time competing in a new event. And it's a lot of pressure raining down on her. There's a lot of high expectations. I could tell that, she was feeling nervous. I mean, even though she's this elite athlete, she's still a human being and has these pressures that she's dealing with. And I, wanted to make sure that me and my camera weren't getting in the way of her focus or whatever she needed to do to make herself feel comfortable to, get the best result in the race that she wanted, because that was most important for her career. This video comes secondary to that. That being said, there will be moments where the athlete is less stressed or less tense. There was a moment where Sydney was talking to another track athlete that she was friendly with, and her guard was down a little bit. She was laughing, and I took that opportunity when she wasn't in the headspace of competing or getting focused on what she needed to do, and asking her if I could get like a quick couple seconds just to ask her how she was feeling, a little verite on the fly style interview of her just sitting on the track and getting her in the moment thoughts there. Next bit of advice that I want to give is to understand the sport that you're filming. Be a fan of that sport. So this one was easy for me. I ran track my whole life. I'm a huge fan of Sydney. I love the sport of track and field, but that often doesn't happen. A lot of times you'll be asked to come in, they film a tennis player or some, you might be a fan of tennis. I don't know anything about tennis, but if I were to go into tennis, I would do a lot of research and understanding on not only that individual, but the current climate of tennis, the rules, how people warm up, how people, motivate themselves and what they're trying to chase and what their goals are. Next bit of advice is brought to us by my good friends over at Artless, our sponsor for today's video. That's to build the world that best represents your athlete that you're working with through music and sound design. So before I even went to Paris to film, I made sure I collected a bunch of music that I was able to find on Artless that best matched that tone. Cinematic, ambient, all those types of sounds that were very simple yet powerful. Then when I filmed everything and I got into the edit, there was a handful of scenes where I was like, I don't even want music here. I just want some nice sound design, like a nice LFE rumble or like the feeling of just air moving around the room. And I was able to find a lot of great ambient sound effects on Artless by just searching in wind or even deep bass tones, anything that just could just create some sort of fullness in the room without overwhelming the scene, because she is a very simple athlete. Like she does what she needs to do on the track. And I think all those sounds and those music did a good job of getting you into Sydney's headspace in that point in time where she is feeling this pressure. She is trying to stay focused and keep a good mental headspace.
You know the plan, and when you understand why, you don't have to listen to any of that.
I also was able to use Artless by pulling a nice drone footage clip at sunrise of Paris with the Eiffel Tower in the background. It was also just super easy to find the exact clip that I was looking for with Artless's new AI-powered footage search bar, which quickly pretty much finds the footage that you need for your project without wasting time searching through just like stuff that's completely irrelevant. Another thing that Artless just added is their new cross-asset recommendation tool, which is actually really helpful because as I'm looking at this footage of Paris, it's giving me recommendations for sound effects right there. It's Paris ambience, and it downloaded right there, saved me a ton of thought, energy. So yeah, if you're interested in checking out Artless, go ahead and click the link in my description below where you can sign up and get 2 months free off an annual subscription. And the next bit of advice is something that I preach all the time, any video, whether you're working with professional athletes or doing anything. When you're working solo or small teams, you gotta keep the gear as simple as possible. When you're working with professional athletes, you only have so much time with these athletes to get shots. They have a very strict schedule. You can't get what you want, so you gotta be in the right position and you gotta have the gear ready to go, ready to hit record. I keep things simple with my same camera, FX3, have my 24-70, or if I knew I was gonna have to be further away, I put on a 70-200, 2 lenses, kept everything for the most part pretty handheld. There were a lot of instances where I knew I had time to set up my camera on a gimbal, whether it was to get B-roll to the stadium or whatever it was. A lot of downtime where I knew I wouldn't be so rushed to switch over to a gimbal. Even with the interview setup that I had going, I wanted to make it quick, easy, not overwhelming for Sydney. So I just set up a chair in my hotel room, opened the windows, set the camera, laved her up. I didn't even have a boom mic stand because I didn't want to travel with a giant thing. It's not like the most perfect audio in the world, but it works for this video. My last bit of advice that I want to share before we head out, and you go and check out the final video that is on Sydney's page, but that is to shoot a master interview with your athlete after everything that you've been through is over with. Hindsight is 20/20. You can look at all the coverage that you shot, every moment that you shot, the actual event, the race that she ran in. I knew the end result. And I took all that knowledge and was able to kind of prep a story in my head, have a basic plan for how this video is gonna play out, and then ask Sydney or whoever your athlete is specific questions about how those events actually played out and have them relive those moments in real time. And I think you'll get a better interview that's easier, simpler for the athlete. So yeah, awesome experience. So glad I got to do it. Hopefully, I get to film with Sydney for something else in the future. I'd gladly do so. Also, don't be afraid to reach out to professional athletes. You'd be surprised how many do want videos. They just don't know who to reach out to, or they got a lot going on. But if you reach out to the third string wide receiver on the Carolina Panthers, they might, whoever that is, I don't know who that currently is, be like, hey, I'd love to shoot some stuff for you. Let me know when you're practicing, I'll do it for free or whatever it is. That's a great way to get into this. Again, if you want to check out Artless, links down in the description below. They're probably one of the more impressive companies in the filmmaking space, actively working to help filmmakers and evolve their workflow. So proud to be working with them in this stage, and yeah, proud to be sitting here in front of you. Thanks for watching. Love you.